I am Rob.
And I'm Rob as well. Hello.
And welcome to Marmalade, the Geek Show's regular look back at the more prominent games that we've been playing, the things that have kind of stuck with us over the last month. How are you, anyway, this week?
Compared to last month, I've got a PlayStation 5 now, so, I tried Xbox.
Yes,
Xbox
you did?
ain't for me.
Yeah?
You could say, oh, that makes you a Sony pony, but, even as it's sort of an insult, Sony pony, I'd love to be a pony, I could frolic free in the fields and, do as I wish and not have to get a job and, pay taxes. Why wouldn't you want to be a pony?
Hey, if anyone out there wants to give me a pony, pony is also a slang term for a £50 note, isn't it?
Well, in London, yes. So,
if people want to give me ponies, I'll have as many of those £50 notes as possible.
And we've talked about this before, there's this idea that you've either got to be one thing or another, and if you like one thing, you hate another thing. It's just become really tedious. There's this other thing as well, where a lot of people say, I like all games, so I've got all consoles. That's not maintainable for lots of people.
No, I basically have all consoles, but I rarely use all of those consoles.
Yeah, you got to find out what works for you. And I thought, I was sick of PlayStation, and I thought, what, I'll try something else. I'll try Xbox this generation. It wasn't to be, So I went back to the comforting bosom of Sony. Fair enough. It's a bit not very ambitious of me, but, it's what it is.
Yeah, it's what you're used to. And at the end of the day, that's fine. It's not that you hate Xbox or anything like that. It's just you're not used to the environment, and that's fine.
It's just the sort of games that don't really jam with my taste, as I think we talked about in last month's Marmalade.
Yeah,
I played games which basically I got really old on multi-format when I had the Games Pass. So, I tried.
And see, this is the thing that always confuses me about this whole argument that you're either in the Sony camp or the Microsoft camp or the Nintendo camp, and you can only be in one of those places. The thing that confused me is that people, by their nature, don't actually work that way. In terms of their mentality, in terms of the psychology of just human beings in general, we don't work like that.
Let's not get into psychology, because you kind of trot that out every time I bring up this talking point.
But I'm just saying that it's weird and kind of unnatural for people not to keep their options open and not to explore.
Yeah, and it's also the suggestion that if you play games, you have to be absolutely in on games. No. But that's another topic for another day. But anyway, we've got games to talk about. I've got 2 games, which is technically 4 games, but it's 2 games this month. So,
well, I've got 3 games, which are definitely 3 games.
So I'll let Rob sort of bookend the show.
Okay. Because I was confused by the 2 games, which are technically 4 games.
Well, if you got one of those Atari connections, because in a recent episode of News Trash, Atari popped up, so I thought, Atari haven't got any games. Should have put footage from one of those old collections, and I thought, no. But one of those games is basically like 40 games, isn't it, technically?
Yes, it is. Anyway, I'm going to start off with a really, really, really good-looking game. And this game is just like, it's just fantastic. The scenery in it is amazing. It's developed by Thunked, and AMC have a games wing. Who knew AMC had a games wing?
Don't AMC
do The Walking Dead and stuff like that? Yeah. And
I don't know what else to do. Nobody outside of America knows what else to do.
And yet, when this game started up, I was like, AMC do games? When did that happen? So yeah, this is I know it's bizarre, but this is the Magnificent Trufflepigs, which is weirdly enough, I think it's kind of the game that I had to just pick up and play it as soon as I saw it, because I'm a big fan of a BBC series, a little BBC series called The Detectorists, which is all about metal detecting. I know, I'm not a metal detector myself. I don't go out in the fields with a metal detector with the head.
I'm going to say you're not a metal detector, so you're not carried by a really long person and you make bing noises whenever you pass metal. Because that would make you that's a kink, Rob. And I'll have none of it here.
No, I'm not. No. You've thrown me completely with that.
Your wording. Got to be careful of your wording, remember.
Just, no talk about handles.
Anyway, the Magnificent Trufflepigs, which when I saw the name, I saw the name before I saw the game, and it made me think of sort of, I don't know, but sort of like adventure game with kids, mascot characters, sort of like pigs going off and doing magnificent RPG adventures. But reality is very, very different than what my imagination conjured.
Let me just say, Mackenzie Crook and Toby Jones in the BBC series, they, as soon as I watched Detectorists, I just fell in love with the characters and just the whole weird idea of metal detecting as a pastime, and just the weird rivalries and just kind of, it's like a very kind of, there's a weird gang culture in metal detecting. I did not know this until I watched Detectorists. And so when I saw Magnificent Trufflepigs, I thought, it's got metal detectors, I'm sold. I want to know more. Not that I'm going to buy a metal detector and go around the beaches or the fields, but I want to know more. Immediately, I'm curious. And the scenery is beautiful. Everything is just stunning in the game. Just the entire scenery, everything like that.
Isn't this from the guys who did Everybody's Gone to the Rapture?
Thunked, yeah.
Yeah. Which is kind of a game which put them completely on the map.
Yeah. It's kind of... the thing is, I think it is by the guys who did Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, but also kind of not as well, because I think it's some of the people who did that who went on to do this, and other people who worked on Everybody's Gone to the Rapture stayed with, and did other things.
Okay, so it's like ex-members. Yeah, fair enough, fair enough.
Magnificent Trufflepigs, it's a slightly bizarre game. It is a walking simulator, quite literally. In the truest sense of the word, it's a walking simulator. You walk pretty much everywhere with your metal detector looking for bits in the ground. And it is a slow game. I mean real slow. Really, really slow.
You see, that's the problem with me. I mean, it's the same with movies. The term slow burn is used a lot, but a lot of movies that are described as slow burn have no burn at all. They're just slow, because the burn means you have to build something.
Yeah. There is a little bit of a burn there, but it's more like, when you're a kid and you do the Chinese burns on someone's arm. It's more like that.
Horrible and, scarring for life.
No. Just kind of as if someone who doesn't really have a good grip, like a 2-year-old is trying to give an adult man a Chinese burn, but it's, you can feel the friction.
Okay, so it's a bit too slow for my taste, essentially. You're really torturing the metaphor, so I'm going to cut you off. It's really, really slow, is the point you are making.
Yes, I mean, not just slow in terms of narrative, it's also slow in terms of just how you move. You basically are slow.
That's by definition of walking simulators, isn't it? It's one of those jarring things where you think, why don't they just run?
I mean, if I had a metal detector, I would literally be running around the fields with a metal detector rather than walking, but apparently that's not how they work. You've got to give them time to detect things.
Okay.
So, yeah, you play as a guy called Adam, who has been called by his one-time childhood friend, who, I can't remember what her name is. And after a certain point, I kind of didn't care what her name was, because she was a little bit annoying.
Okay.
She's desperate to find some earring, which is the other half of an earring she found as a kid in the fields of the Stanning farm, and the Stanning farm has been sold, so you only have a week before the developers move in to dig everything up. And she wants to find the other earring because that was the happiest time of her life. And I just thought, they're not torturing this analogy much, are they? The happiest time in her life was when she was a kid with her friends and her parents with a metal detector, and she found this earring, and that made her the center of attention. And she, for some reason, it's impossible for her to correlate or to extrapolate how that could reflect in her adult life. I'm like, I want to kind of talk some sense into her, or just say, look, you need some professional help.
I gotta say this to you, Rob, but video game characters aren't real people.
I know, but it's just there's a lot of dialogue that happens, and you are in the role of Adam, and yes, you have certain dialogue choices. You can be cruel, or you can be kind, and by nature, I tend to be kind. and so that affects my dialogue choices. And I'm hovering over the the really abrupt, cruel answer. Well, I suppose cruel, but direct. Let's say, just telling it like it is. I'm hovering over that, going, "Ugh," and I'm trying hard to click the mouse button on the direct answer, but it won't let me. My brain won't let me. I have to go to the kind thing. Yeah, and it's frustrating. It's really frustrating because you just want to sit the character down and say, look, you're kind of driving yourself into a corner.
You see, when I deprived him of talking about psychology, he thought he's going to turn this bit into psychology, so I'm going to stop him and say, talk about the game, not your mental state.
But that's the point. That is the game.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that is the game. In terms of how the game, in terms of the scenery and everything like that, it's gorgeous. In terms of the actual story, it's weak sauce.
Okay.
And that's the big problem, because you spend so much time in conversation with the main female character, talking about your history, talking about the things that went wrong in your personal histories, because apparently she's always been obsessed with your character. And there's a conversation that happens between her and one of her other friends, and she says she just needs your character. And you're like, okay, right, that sets off certain bells. You kind of can figure out what's going to happen in the future. But then everything kind of, they go back into the past with the dialogue and talk about everything like that. And it's one of those things where if they hadn't had that conversation at the beginning with her and her friend, and hadn't placed so much focus on the character that you're going to be playing, right, then a lot of what happens afterwards in terms of the dialogue would have been more, you would have been more open to it. But because you go in knowing that she's kind of obsessed with your character, it adds a taint to a lot of the conversations that you have with the character.
Okay.
So, yeah. It's beautiful, but not for me.
It's good job you took it, because I think my review would have been a lot harsher.
I can guarantee, right? I can absolutely guarantee this would have made you angry.
It's one of these genres, the walking simulator, that I don't fully understand.
Yeah.
Because it's the way I've always perceived them is they are movies that just so happen to pick the sort of medium of video games, but not sort of mainstream accessible movies, sort of movies by veteran French directors that take place in 3 rooms.
Yes. The weird thing what you said is Magnificent Trufflepigs is basically that, but in 3 fields.
Yeah, that kind of got it on the nose, innit? But there's an audience for that. It's just in the video game field, I don't know whether it's, well, anything really.
Yeah.
But, because these games cost so much less than, typical games, it's a bit more manageable and to put together and, this and that.
Yeah.
And the demand to sell, like, millions of copies isn't quite there, so.
Yeah. I'll tell you something, right? If do you remember that weird cube and chisel game that Peter Molyneux came out with?
No.
Where it was a weird thing where you basically had to buy chisels and chisel away at this cube.
Oh, vaguely, yeah.
Right. If they did a metal detecting game where you could basically choose an environment and there was something hidden in that environment and you could be the only person to find it and then you win a prize, yeah? That would be an interesting metal detecting game. This sadly isn't.
It's not a metal detecting game, it's a narrative game.
It's a framework.
Storytelling game.
Yeah, it's a framework for telling a story, but, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
Right, moving on, I'm going to be quick here because, it's been talked about a lot already, but I got the PlayStation 5, as I mentioned, and the pack-in of the PlayStation 5 is Astros Playroom, so I just want to talk about that briefly.
Yeah.
It is a demo. Last year it got lots of sort of Game of the Year nods and contention. It was up there with, like, the best games of the year, and calling it a game is a bit of a stretch. I know games can be short, but at the same time, this is set as a platformer with, like, 4 worlds, and you can do it in 2 hours. Easy.
Really?
Yeah. It plays really, really well, and its sort of selling point is the fact that it's literally got all of the gimmicks of the sort of the controller, the DualSense.
Yeah.
Which, fact fans, for people who haven't got a PlayStation 5, don't have all of the things on the controller because it eats your battery like you won't believe. I mean, I can compare the Xbox to the PlayStation in that regard, and the Xbox controller is much, much better than the DualSense because I've had the controller last days and days and days, whereas I reckon the PlayStation 5 controller is every 2 days you probably have to recharge it, give or take.
Yeah.
And Astros Playroom is a game where you really sort of find that the extent of that out, you know. And there's lots of little things as well in the design of the game. There's a bit where you have to climb up the side of a wall with a monkey, and it's really badly explained. It's got like little visual cues on the screen telling you what to do. And I had to YouTube it to figure it out because, honestly, the way it shows and expresses how you do this thing on the game doesn't make sense. It's really badly put together graphically in that regard. Okay. And there's also other little bits, like a little bit which you've seen a lot of footage of with a fish jumping from side to side where you got to pull the triggers back to jump. That's really annoying. I'm kind of coming around to say this, that I don't think Astros Playroom is particularly good.
Wow. It's
a good test for a controller. Going around the world and finding these bits of PlayStation history. But yeah, I mean, as a history piece for PlayStation, it's sublime. The Astro little robot fella is really, really cute, and having him dressed up as characters from PlayStation's history is very, very good. But the game itself, it just highlights things that I don't really like. I mean, the triggers are fine. They're good. I can live with that. The rumble is great because it just, the way it sort of taps on your hands, it makes different surfaces feel like different things. But it's coming back to this thing that this game is very, very reliant on, and its motion controls. And with a traditional controller that you hold in your hand, not like I don't know how you describe the Wii controller, but it was sort of like a stick, basically. A stick with buttons on it.
Yeah.
Rather than a thing you held in both hands. That works. A stick that you hold in one hand and you sort of, like, you know, move it around, and motion controls are receptive there. But the problem I have with motion controls and a traditional controller that you hold in two hands is the implication that many of these games and games designers have in their work that suggests that when people play games, they are sat on a perfectly flat surface, sat straight, holding the controller straight, and everything. I don't.
Yeah.
Sort of lean and sort of have my controller resting on one leg or one arm on one arm of the chair, and, you know, this or that or the other. So it makes you really aware of how you are holding the controller, and it kind of breaks the illusion of... Not the illusion, that's the wrong word. It makes you play the game in a way that you don't feel comfortable. You have a way that you feel comfortable holding the controller, a way you feel sitting comfortable and playing the game feeling comfortable. And the game says, yeah, you're basically crashing into that wall because of how you're doing that. But I don't want to do that. I want to go straight. So I'm going to have to sit up straight, proper posture, like a member of the Queen's service.
My nephew, when he plays games, he has a controller almost near his chin, right?
Yeah. This game would wreck him. It wouldn't let him do anything.
It's like he's some kind of hamster with a seed, and he's about to munch on it. It's like right here, right? And he plays it like this.
I've heard people talk about sort of the claw technique as well for pressing buttons. I mean, there's all these
the claw technique. Well,
look it up. But it's just motion controls I don't like, and I don't think Astro does it particularly well. But as an archive piece for PlayStation's history, I think it's wonderful. As a game in its own right, it is literally a demo. It is literally a demo you can do in about 2 hours.
Showing off what the controller can do.
Yeah.
And the controller's got a bunch of functions which are basically going to go the way of the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation 4 controller.
Yeah. I mean, the only ones that can have any sort of longevity are the triggers and the rumble.
Yeah. The
rest kind of utterly disposable. Which, when I say the rest, what I essentially mean is the motion controls. The motion controls can go to hell as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I mean, there's so few games that actually use the motion controls with the PlayStation 3, and there's so few games that use the touchpad with the PlayStation 4.
Yeah. But the haptics are very, very good because it's haptics in conjunction with the microphone in the controller. So it's sound and vibration at the same time, and it just makes it sound it feels very, very good to just wander, but turn everything from strong to sort of regular. Otherwise, your battery will just right down to the bottom.
Right. Okay. So moving from that then to a game that is how do I just... This is going to be weird, but follow me on this, right? So, back in 2007, a Korean author called Hee-sung Nam started writing a series and publishing it called The Legendary Moonlight Sculptor. And in that novel series, which is now like 57 volumes long, and is very, very, very popular. And in that, he's got a character called Lee Hyun, who plays a character called Weed, who plays online video games. And he started playing this new virtual reality MMO called Royal Road, which he is basically kicking everyone's ass at. So, Royal Road is a virtual world, probably the most well-realized virtual world in fiction. So, Ernest Cline can go suck an egg. Anyway, imagine taking that virtual reality game world and then turning it into a mobile game where you see characters from the actual novel series who are also part of that world. You see them, but you don't actually play as any of them. You have your own character in this virtual world, which is now a mobile game. Because that is the Royal Road that forms the basis of Moonlight Sculptor, the mobile game. Did you follow that?
I wasn't really listening, but I assume people who are watching this are. Because he's talked about this sort of thing a lot, so it's just white noise to me by this point.
It's not that. Basically, they took the virtual world from the novel, turned it into a mobile game, but you then see characters from the novel trotting around in the mobile game, but you don't get to play as any of them. They're off doing their own thing. You have to play as your own character, which I kind of like, right? Because yes, I am playing Moonlight Sculptor, and I've been playing it since it started, since it was officially released in the West. Because obviously I don't speak Korean, so I couldn't play the Korean version. And I'm surprised at how much game is in there. And I mean, by game, I mean solid game. And this is before, this is before you get to the pay-to-win stuff. Because there are pay-to-win bits in there, but you don't need them. A lot of the game is focused on you developing as a player, you growing as a player. I mean, I've got to level 50 already, and I haven't had to pay a damn thing. Haven't had to pay anything to get to level 50. I'm pretty handy in a fight. I've got my own classes. There's multiple classes. There are hidden classes as well. There's stacks and stacks of quests you can do. There's massive areas to explore. You can have pets. You can have summons. You can have a house in different places. You can do all sorts in this game. And I'm surprised at just how diverse and how open it is as a game. Really, really surprised. I didn't, because I thought Genshin Impact was one avenue where games could go with mobile devices. But now Moonlight Sculptor has shown me that there is an alternative when it comes to online mobile RPGs, which are quite open-ended in terms of the player base. It doesn't force you to basically go on raids with other people, for example, that you don't know. You can team up with people just at random. Or you can just join in a raid and automatically you're part of a team. You don't have to go looking for people.
Okay.
Which is a nice thing, because most of the time when I play games like this, I don't want to really talk to other people. I'm playing it basically for me. I'm not playing it to make friends,
Aren't you the life of the party?
Well, it's not that. It's just basically a lot of these...
I know. I'm just teasing.
I play games mainly for escapism. I play them mainly for the story. And weirdly enough, Moonlight Sculptor, because I know the story, what I want to do is visit the places from the story. So I want to go to the Forbidden Zones. I want to basically visit the Kingdom of Arpen. I want to basically go and see these things that I've read about in the book.
He's LARPing, ladies and gentlemen. He's LARPing.
I'm not LARPing. I'm curious to see them.
Call him A and B. Call him A and...
Right, I'll admit, I have a soft spot for this game because of the subject matter. I will admit that. But even with the subject matter, if it was a crap game, I would have said it's a crap game, right? If it was a pay-to-win game, I would have said straight away, it's a pay-to-win game, don't play it, right?
It's worse. There's worse than pay-to-win in that space of mobile games as well. There's pay-to-play.
This isn't pay-to-play either, which is
you only got so much stamina, and if you want to continue playing, you've got to pay.
Right. I've played this for 4 hours straight without having and literally I had to plug my phone into the charger and kept playing for like an extra hour and a half after my battery started running out.
Ooh, you shouldn't do that. It's not good for the phone.
Yeah, but I mean, I was in the middle of a session, a 4-hour session that, number one, didn't cost me a penny. Number two, I had fun with. And number 3, I ended up getting pets and a buddy and summons and all sorts because of that session.
The only question that matters for this is, does it work, or will it work for people who don't know what the hell Moonlight Sculptor is?
Yeah, because all it's doing is introducing you to this game world called Royal Road. I mean, there is a little bit of meta where you start off in the real world, and then you enter your VR cabin in the real world, and then you're into Royal Road and you create your character. And I suppose they had to do that because of the context of what the novel is, okay? But when you're in the VR world, you don't really leave. You're basically in the VR world of Royal Road, and you're basically playing in there, and that's it. And there's all sorts to do. There's loads of characters to talk to. There's a lot of thought that's gone into this. That's surprised. Good. I'm actually surprised.
Okay, that's a pretty good note to end on. My next one is the 3 games that I was talking about. And there's been 2 that have been released recently. The bigger profile one, let's not lie about anything. It's Mass Effect Legendary Edition.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'd want to play that again, really, because I played number 2 a lot.
Yeah.
Trying to save every single character. I don't think I ever did it, but, it is what it is.
Yeah, I know several people who, I don't know, maybe... I hesitate to say that their heart is in the right place because their reasons for not playing the Legendary Edition of Mass Effect are kind of crass.
Yeah, there's lots of things in there which, kind of gross.
They don't want to play it. Yeah, they don't want to play it because of the censorship.
Kind of gross. But the other one is Ninja Gaiden Collection.
Yeah, just try and censor that game.
It's collecting Sigma versions, not the black version. I think the hard code was actually lost. So unfortunately, if you got a version of that on the Xbox, whatever it is, it's worth its weight in gold, essentially.
Original Xbox, yeah.
But yes, it's collecting the Sigma versions, which is fine. The gameplay is the same. It's just the difficulty curve is a bit more forgiving or unforgiving, depending on which version of the game it is. So yeah, it's collecting those 3 together. I played it on the PlayStation 5. I don't know what the difference is there, but it did load very, very quickly, which is good for a game like this, because going back to its original iteration, it loaded very, very slowly. And it still has a few trappings of that. I mean, number 1, in which you play Ryu Hayabusa and someone tries... I mean, I'm not going to go into the story. Number 1, number 2, number 3. That's as far as I'm going into the story. I'll mention some characters, but, story. It's about a ninja who ninjas stuff. Story is as unessential as you could possibly imagine.
There are demons. He forgot about the demons.
There's demons and the soldiers who become increasingly ninja-like, but, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Number 1, if we're going to rank it, it's 2, 1, 3, just for sort of context. But number 1 is probably the purest of the lot, in the sense of it doesn't have any of the trappings. It's just sort of pure action. But the reservation with number 1 is the game world is very boring. Very, very boring. Even though I had that sort of twang of nostalgia when I go through certain levels that I've clearly done many, many times before, because this is a game series that I played to death when I had it originally, going back. So there's twangs of nostalgia, but the twangs of nostalgia can only really mask over the fact that you're going from... when there's going to be an ambush or something, because it's a big open room.
Yeah.
But this is a game series which I will go on record as saying has the best combat probably ever in any sort of adventure, like martial arts sword play game. Better than Devil May Cry, better than any of these games.
Better than Bayonetta.
Hands down.
Right.
Because the reason for this is the flexibility of Ryu Hayabusa for a character. In many games, if you run into a wall, you run into a wall.
Yeah.
But if you run into a wall, he'll run up the wall. If you run into a wall at a certain angle, he'll run along the wall at a certain angle. If you run into a wall at a certain angle and there's a corner, he'll run across that wall and jump to the other wall. Yeah. Which makes the possibilities of what you can do and what you can achieve staggering.
Yeah.
Much to the point on that, where it becomes so staggering that I was playing number 3 and I thought, hang on, where have I gone? I've gone too fast. Where am I? Where is he? Where's Ryu gone?
Yeah, just to put this into context, right? One conversation that we had while you were playing Ninja Gaiden 2 springs to mind. This new version of Ninja Gaiden 2. Because before I'd actually even said hello, he basically said... He started talking about the gameplay of Ninja Gaiden 2. I hadn't even said hello.
Well, yeah, there we go. But number 1's good, but the bosses are In later ones, I think they cracked the bosses a bit better. In this one, it's kind of like, what am I supposed to do here? The guy basically shoots constantly. Where am I supposed to get here? What am I supposed to do here? It's not particularly... I mean, games bosses have evolved over the years, and sometimes games bosses are done well, sometimes they're done badly. I think number one's games bosses are pretty bad, honestly. Number two, I think the problem with number two is always going to be the same as in the game world, is very grey and vanilla. However, the combo system, the way the character moves, the levels, the bosses, if this game world was a little bit more production design to it, it's probably one of my favourite games ever. It's just when you're going from grey room to grey room, from hangar to hangar, from open room to open room, it kind of becomes a bit played out as a game world, but the actual playing of it, nothing like it. It is beautiful.
By the sounds of it, you want Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2 Kiwami.
Yeah, sort of like just flesh out the world, give it a bit of like colour, because it's just such a boring game world, but beautiful, brilliant, well-considered, well-balanced, interesting, and constantly replayable game in that boring game world. Yeah.
Which is why I went with Kiwami rather than an actual full-on remake.
Yeah, and number three has a lot of problems that have been reported along, but I kind of forgot about it, because, you play something, I think 2012 this one was originally released, that's 9 years ago, you forget a lot about games that you played 9 years ago. But the problem with this is they've kind of gone a bit too extreme, dropping the E's, Yeah. The problem is, in the other ones, he was a ninja, he got... Ryu Hayabusa's an ninja, he gets involved with a lot of the world, he does things outside of his little village. That's fine. In this, just before that, in the number one, he's got a kunoichi friend.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of her, but yeah, she helps. You got a mission along with her, and that's usually the worst part of the game. In number two, Ryu's female friend is a buxom American S&M sadomasochistic model, wearing leather and with all of the flesh hanging out, who happens to work for the CIA, so it's nice to see that CIA's uniform code is pretty lax.
I don't want to know what the guys are wearing.
Yeah. And number three, the characters and also the acting is improved exponentially, but it's the story which is really the crux of this. Basically, they've turned Ryu Hayabusa into a monster who goes on absolute blind rage lusts. Like, rage, he just loses himself and rage. It's like rage mode. You gotta kill as many people as humanly possible, because if you don't, you will die. You gotta constantly kill. And there's bits in the cutscenes where he just seems like a nice, adjusted guy, and the female character who he's talking with introduces him to his daughter. So you don't introduce that to your daughter? We're basically bathing in other people's flesh 10 minutes ago. And it's just so incredibly jarring. And also the combat, I think it's gone too hard, too far. Because what I was saying earlier is essentially, I lost where I was. He moves so fast, I don't know where I've gone. I thought, oh, right, there I am. I found where I am. And that's kind of hard to keep on top of.
Yeah.
But it's infinitely worth playing. I don't think it does too much. It just basically makes the load times quicker. It HDifies it, makes the frame rate steady. The bare minimum for what you want to do for this sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I will absolutely stand by number two. Not just will I stand by number two, I think it may have to go into my top 10 of all time.
Wow.
And by very definition of having a top 10 of all time, not a lot of things have that honour. And this is a game that I'm putting alongside Dead Space, which I constantly talk about. So this isn't me damning with faint praise. Number one is a good warm-up. And number three is a good, oh, you've gone too far. What are you doing there?
Yeah.
But by the sheer averaging out of all of them, this is definitely worth playing. And I think it's only £35. So, yeah, definitely get on it. And if this is them basically saying, okay, we're going to do number 4, I will be so happy.
Yeah. And it's a shame that you didn't have Black as a comparison piece with this. It is a shame, because I think that would have made a nice kind of a nice kind of I don't know what the word is. When you hold something up to a mirror.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I will say is I had to turn the difficulty down on number 3.
Yeah.
To hero mode, I think they call it, because it was so fast I couldn't defend myself very well.
Yeah.
I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know where I was, and I just sort of finally caught myself. Oh, like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. There I am. Okay, I found myself. I'm good. I'm good to go. So yeah, it's definitely worth playing. I kind of loved it.
Cool.
But then again, I love the original, so that's kind of a moot point.
Yeah, exactly. For my final game, right, there are a lot of things about this game that I really, really like. Let me get this right out of the way. Number one, it reminds me of the original Fallout games, Fallout 1 and 2, in a big, big way.
Okay.
Number two, it's got beautiful scenery. The word beautiful is in the title. Number three, it's sci-fi. It's kind of post-apocalyptic in a sense. And number four, the accents are amazing. It's like right. Do you remember
Usually
District
you gotta
9?
say what the game is.
Yeah. Do you remember District 9?
Yes.
Right. District 9, science fiction movie set in South Africa. Everyone's got really strong South African accents. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now imagine that in a video game where every character has really strong South African accents and the South African vernacular is strong, because that's what Beautiful Desolation is. Beautiful Desolation. It's by the Brotherhood, which is basically Nick and Eric Bischoff. And
taking a break from wrestling, I guess.
I don't know if it's that Bischoff.
I doubt it. It's just I have to bring it up. Sorry.
But anyway, the thing about Beautiful Destination is you play as a guy called Mark, and about 10 years previous to the events of the game, this thing called the Penrose appeared in the skies of South Africa, and your other half passes away, and now 10 years later you are a journalist. You think you've uncovered the truth of the Penrose, and you want your brother to take you up on his chopper, and your brother Don has a magnificent beard, and in the bits where you actually see Mark's haircut, he looks like a 70s porn model, which is a bit of a
yeah. I mean, that's kind of fitting because I played Wasteland.
Yeah.
And I tried to make a character called Tommy Parno, but the game wouldn't let me. And it feels like one of the characters in this is Tommy Parno.
Yeah.
By the way, I toned him down to call him Tommy Knockers, which is even worse, I think. But go on.
Yeah, Stephen King's Tommy Knockers.
Yeah. Beautiful
Anyway,
Desolation, though.
Beautiful Desolation. Right, there are elements to this game. It's obviously it's isometric, and you basically go around exploring stuff. There's virtually no combat in this game, which is where it kind of deviates from Fallout 1 and 2. But in terms of the storytelling, it's really, really strong. There is a definite story here. There's definite mystery here. There are things to investigate. There are characters to interact with. And they're all like fully voiced, and they've all got really strong South African accents. Everyone in the game is like proper South African, and it's such a nice deviation.
Just to relate that, I mean, I think it was what was it, Dragon Quest 8? Was it? Everybody had an English accent, and it just when every game has American, you don't realise how refreshing it is when a game isn't.
Oh God, yes, exactly. That's the point I'm making. It's such a nice deviation from the usual American fare, and I mean, I kept playing the game just to hear more characters talk, because I was like, this is really cool. This is amazing.
Yeah, it's so refreshing.
Yeah,
you don't realise you need that break. Honestly.
Yeah. And even the cyborg dog called Pooch, who is female, right? And that's just because they've done it like that, okay? Is really strong South African accent, and I thought, and I just thought this is like wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the game's like, but it kind of relates to a point we're talking about on a recent episode of Impossible Mission, where I want games to be from all corners of the world, because all corners of the world are beautiful and have stories to tell, perspectives of their own. Not walkness, just broadness.
Yeah,
and this sounds very broad, in both senses.
There's so many diverse characters to meet, right? So many diverse characters, and you can basically, you can choose to be cruel, you can choose to be kind, you can basically, in the same way as the original Fallout games. And a lot of the way that they actually do the actual dialogue bits reminds me of the original two Fallout games, the way that they actually frame it. So it's like a little video thing at the top, and then you have the captions for the text from what's being said, which is fully voiced, and then you have your options at the bottom. And that's exactly the way it used to be in Fallout, and that's why I get such big Fallout vibes from this game. The original Fallout games, that is. And That immediately drew me in for me, because I love Fallout 1 and 2. I think they're amazing games. And so I was immediately drawn into this. It's dystopian, it's sci-fi, it's my jam totally. Problem is...
Just on that shows how very different people we are, doesn't it? Rob's jam is very just desolate, dystopian sci-fi with strong characters. Man's ninjas who can run on walls and stab stuff.
Exactly.
Very different.
The problem is, when this came out on the PC, you can tell it's very much a point-and-click adventure type game.
What did you play this on?
PlayStation 4 Pro.
That's always the problem, isn't it? Sort of making a point-and-click a controller game. I don't know whether any games ever really cracked it.
See, the port from PC is good, and the graphics are great on the PlayStation 4 Pro. Dialogue's great, the music is great, everything's great, except there are niggly bits, and it's always going to be those niggly bits that make you go, damn you, game!
Once a developer figures out how to make this transition, it's going to open up so many games to be so playable on consoles and open up to so much to an audience that will never experience it. But it's got to take that one game.
I know how to do it, and it's something the Dreamcast already did. Add a mouse and keyboard to the console.
Yeah, but the Dreamcast also went under from having a million peripherals, so,
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying that, the PlayStation 4 has already sold 110 million, consoles. It's not going to go under anytime soon. They've gone on the PlayStation 5.
It wouldn't be the worst thing to have a keyboard and mouse peripheral for your consoles. Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea at all, actually.
Exactly. Because then, when you're making a port from a PC, you don't have to stress about, let's make it compatible with controllers. You're like, hey, they got mouse and keyboards on there as well. So that's easy enough now.
Yeah.
Job done.
But is the game worth playing?
Yes.
Or is it worth playing on PC?
It's absolutely worth playing on PC. Yes, there are a couple of niggly bits. There are a couple of bits where the frames freeze a little bit, and the screen judders a little bit. And there's a couple of bits where it just kind of the perspective is a little bit distorted. And there are some bits, because you get a ship where you can fly around on the map, and there are bits where I was trying to see just how big the map was, and all I got was when you look at the picture and you move the picture a little bit too far across, and then you just see the edge of the picture, and then nothing else.
Let's just say yes.
Basically, it's so...
You don't need to explain it, just move on.
I think it's a great game. And I've continued playing it because it is a fascinating idea. The whole idea of your place in time and space, you being fixed point, but everything else is moving around you rather than the other way around. So it's not that you're being catapulted through space and time because of something, but you become the fixed point, and you have to try and fix everything else because you're the fixed point.
Sci-fi shenanigans.
Yes, sci-fi shenanigans.
It's easy to explain it like that, Rob.
Yes.
Ninja Gaiden's about ninja shenanigans. Each one of the games, it's just ninja shenanigans.
Yeah. It's totally my jam. Absolutely worth playing. You can forgive the niggly bits. And if you're a fan of Fallout 1 and 2, then absolutely this is a game that you want to play.
Metal detecting shenanigans. It's an easy way to explain away any game.
Technically, yeah, I suppose metal detecting shenanigans is how you explain every game.
Yes. And on that, we've just conquered games and synopsises there. Job over.
It wasn't that Metal Gear Solid. He has to go and find the big metal thing. Metal detecting shenanigans.
Yes, basically. But if you like this show, please do support us. There's a Patreon which is flashed on the screen every so often. Go over there and throw us a few pounds and get some exclusive content for the trouble. And other than that, though, please do subscribe, kick that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our stuff, because we are a small channel and small channels need a lot of support, whereas big ones have already had enough. Give that support to us instead. But yeah, until next time, Rob will be properly Xboxed. Yeah.
I will be what?
Yeah, Xboxed. It's a process, Rob, and it's painful and it involves butt stuff. But until then, thank you for listening and watching if you're on podcast providers or YouTube, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.